Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
I give him a lot of credit for that. Before we go preview the Bills and Raiders real quick, I can't even imagine Jets fans when Aaron Rodgers had that injury. I think, I don't know what I would do in this situation. Obviously you can go out there and get another quarterback, but they gotta learn the offense. It's not Madden where you can just throw them in there and they're gonna perform. Zach Wilson is a huge drop off. I mean, if Zach Wilson was doing his job, then they wouldn't even went out and got Aaron Rodgers. So I'm not sure if it's Carson Wentz. I'm not sure who would be the best option for him. What are your thoughts about that, Ryan? And what would you go for? Because I think, it's almost like, I remember a baseball GM said, I think one of their big time sluggers got hurt in like spring training, was out for the year. And I was like, you can't replace the 40 home runs, 100 RBIs in 290. I mean, like, you can't replace it in training and in spring training. So I'm not sure how they're going to be able to do that with the Jets with Aaron Rodgers in week one.
It's tough because you heard Robert Saleh come out after the game and basically yesterday state Zach Wilson's our quarterback. He's QB1. We're rolling on him. They have to say that right now.
Yes.
They're making calls behind the scenes. They have to be. If they believed in Zach Wilson as much as they're leading you to believe right now, they like you said, I don't know if they wouldn't have done the Rodgers thing, but they wouldn't have given up what they gave up and given the contract and done everything they did with Aaron Rodgers and bring in all of his buddies from Green Bay over there. Now you got to think that's a veteran team now in offense. They brought over Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard. They brought over guys, Dalvin Cook. They brought him in. This is a Super Bowl roster. If that offensive line can be slightly below average, they have a chance to be a Super Bowl team, but not with Zach Wilson. If I was them, I'd be calling the Saints and asking, hey, what's going on with Jameis Winston? Now, I know Jameis Winston turns the ball over a lot, but like, he can get the ball down the field and put some points on the board with that defense. That defense is nasty. They're going to keep them in a lot of games. I would probably go Jacoby Brissett route. I'd call Washington and say, hey, what's it going to take? I know he's an older guy. He's a steady veteran. If you watched how they called the game with Zach Wilson, they don't trust him at all. Paul Hackett or Nathaniel Hackett doesn't trust Zach Wilson. Just look at how they, like I said, they called the game when he was in. If Josh Allen doesn't turn the ball over 4 times, they're not in that game at all. So as much as they won the game, you have to look big picture. They're not going anywhere with Zach Wilson. So
what about Wentz or Dalton?
Probably lean Dalton at this point. Now, you'd have to be able to get these veteran quarterbacks for a 5th or 6th with a condition that if they win X number of games or play so many snaps or you win a playoff game, then the compensation goes up. But they just gave away a ton to get Aaron Rodgers. They don't have a ton in draft capital.
They don't.
But this roster can win now. They can't just say, well, let's just roll with Zach Wilson and see what happens, because you're going to waste a year of everyone on that team because Zach Wilson's not leading them anywhere.
Yeah, no question about it. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen with Wilson here. And they play I think back to back, and we got robbed of some great games too because Rodgers.
They have a tough schedule too.
Yeah, but they have a tough schedule. They play the Cowboys and the Chiefs coming up next, so that would have been fun games if Rodgers was playing. But obviously, that didn't happen. As far as that goes, so second play, third play of his Jet career, he's out. Josh Allen, is he as good as he really missing Brian Dable? It sounds like, because I did a lot of research on the Bills. I've listened to a lot of people who cover the Bills. I jumped into their spaces and they're like, they just can't stand the offensive coordinator. Obviously, when you're not scoring points, you're not performing, then you're not gonna like the offensive coordinator. But I think in his last 5 games, he has like 6 games. He has like 6 or 9 interceptions. I might have screwed up that number a little bit. But what are your takes about him? Because he's kind of the key of the whole game. He could really slice and dice you. But is it like a Favre situation where he is just kind of a gambler in a lot of ways, where he's going to throw the football up for grabs at times during games, and it's up to you to catch him?
That's a tough one. He made poor decisions on Monday. We can easily say that. Just watch
against a great defense.
and they threw the ball into double coverage a lot.
Yeah.
Josh Allen is going to make 6, 7, 8 plays a game that only a handful of people on this planet can make. So you can live with the occasional turnover. Now you can't live with 4. If he turns it over once or twice and throws 3 touchdowns and runs for a touchdown, you can live with that. The issue I think you're seeing now with Buffalo is that contract's starting to kick in. They don't have as much around him. The offensive line isn't as good as it's been in the past. The defense isn't as good as it's been in the past. They've lost some pieces on that defensive side of the football. And now they don't run the football. They've never had a running game. So now more of the emphasis is on him. And they really haven't really given him that number 2 guy in the passing game that really is a guy. Like, as good as Gabe Davis is, he's a nice player, but Gabe Davis isn't scaring defenses. Dawson Knox is a nice tight end. He's not a top 5, 6, 7 tight end in the league. Dalton Kincaid's a rookie who's played 1 game.
Yep.
So he doesn't have a lot he's been counted on to handle the load in the running game, and then he's got to throw the ball for 300 to 400 yards a game too. I just think he had a bad game on Monday night. It is what it is, and we'll see what happens come Sunday. And hopefully the Raiders can hold him within check. But Josh Allen is a superstar in this league. It doesn't matter if you turn the ball over 4 times on Monday night. Like, there are – how many teams are 32? There's probably 29 or 30 teams that would love to have Josh Allen right.
Yeah, I mean, and he's a lot. And like when I say Mahomes, it's more like, I mean, he's carrying the load of that offense. Like, everything goes through him. There, I mean, it's not like he's not handing a ball off, 25 times to Derrick Henry or Josh Jacobs. They don't have a guy like that, so they're just running through the football as much as they can. I don't know what I mean. It's interesting to see how much they'll try to attack the Raiders. I think in this game, as far as the tight ends go, because I can imagine the Raiders must have a game plan for Stephon Diggs, where they're not going to let Stephon Diggs go nuts. But Stephon Diggs is so good that he still had, even against the Jets, he had 10 catches for over 100 yards and a touchdown. So the great ones always find a way to get open. So this is a good opportunity for the Raiders. They're coming into this game with house money. They won their first game of the year, so that's how you want to go to Buffalo. Also, don't want to go to Buffalo in November. It's going to be hot and humid in Buffalo and Western New York this week, so it should be
rain. There's rain in the forecast.
Back-to-back rain games it didn't rain in Buffalo, in Denver too, right? So it's rain
the fourth quarter. You got a 40%, 71 degrees with a 40% chance of rain. So I would counter that with, I've watched 18 games of Patrick Graham calling a defense. I've not come out of a game where I've said this guy did a great job trying to take away the number 1 option for the other team. I don't think he hasn't done it successfully, so I wouldn't count on that being. Stephon Diggs is going to get his in this game.
Yes, and is Stephon Diggs going to get his? Is he going to get his like he did against the Jets, or is he going to get his like we've seen wide receivers get with the Raiders in the past?
Tyreek Hill did against the Chargers last week.
Yeah, exactly. Which helped me with fantasy as well. But yeah. I mean, that's the last thing you want to see is that if you want to see that part of it. So we'll see if that's it. I'm more. I think if obviously it's the biggest thing for this defense is the big play. Can you avoid the big play, make them run plays, and then hopefully, Max Crosby can get home on a play. Maybe you get maybe get a Tillery sack, coverage sack, who knows? But as far as the Raider defense goes, I mean that you have to hope for that part of it. Maybe you get a couple quality snaps out of Tyree Wilson as well.
They have to catch the ball when Josh Allen throws it to them. That's the main thing. If he's going to give them a chance for 2-3 turnovers, they have to capitalize. They can't drop it. Yep. If you deflect the ball, you got to pull it down. They need 2 turnovers in this game, I think. I do think if the Raiders are just going to play nickel defense, this is a pretty good team to do it against, because I think the tight ends are going to have to help Max Crosby, because you're not leaving Spencer Brown one-on-one with Max Crosby the whole game. So that should pull a tight end out of the passing game where he's basically just going to be in the flat, or he's going to chip and release. So they're not going to be working vertically down the field a ton. That'll help the Raiders in this game. There is a path for the Raiders to win this game for sure.
And then you think that, I mean, I'm thinking the same thing, like just put that defense on the field and just say, hey, This is so it's so everything is there for you to go run the football, hand it off. Like, I mean, like almost forcing them and telling them, hey, look, give the ball to your running backs because we don't want to see you drop back all the time. So I mean, that would be something that'd be huge if the Raiders can force them to run the football. But then you got to tackle, and Nate Hobbs can't do it by himself as far as that goes. Um, let's see here. I mean, the Raiders on offense running the football. I mean, Brees Hall had 10 carries for 120 yards. I would take an average like that any day of the week.
But he had
But
109 on 2, so that helps.
it does. But running the football is going to be important for this team. I don't really, I kind of fear that.
I think you muted yourself. I can't hear you.
Did I mute myself? Can you hear me now? You're frozen. I think you're frozen.
Now you're frozen.
You're frozen. I think. Hold on one second. Got it back?
There you are. I got you back.
Okay, good. Internet, world internet. But we're talking about the Raiders on offense.
I'm sorry. What was that?
On the Raiders on
My
offense.
family's walking by. Yeah, the Raiders on offense in this game. This is going to come down to Jacoby Myers. If he plays, the Raiders should be able to move the ball on this defense. The cornerback group over there, Tre'Davious White isn't what he was pre-injury. They had a rookie from Florida last year. His name's escaping me. They took him the first round. I want to say Elon. He's been okay. He's kind of been a disappointment. They got a middle linebacker that weighs 220 pounds out of Baylor a couple of years ago named Bernard. Now they still have some safeties back that are pretty good and Hyde. They're older. He's been battling injuries. I think the Raiders can have some success in the passing game here because the offensive line was really good in pass protection. The Bills don't have Von Miller in this game. Ed Oliver's kind of been hit or miss. Rousseau has been okay. Leonard Floyd's probably the one you're going to have to watch out for, but I think Colt Miller can handle him on that side. So I don't see the Bills getting a huge pass rush here unless they get creative with some blitzes. It's going to be up to Jimmy to make the right reads. They're going to have to stay on down and distance. They can't get holding penalties, no false starts. Like you can't be in 2nd and 15. And I think they're going to get creative with Devontae and move him around. I think Josh Jacobs has a big game on the ground. Like the Bills didn't really – I mean, they had Zach Wilson in the game. You knew the Jets couldn't throw the ball, and the Jets still ran the ball pretty much at will when they wanted to.
Yeah.
So that's what it's going to come down to. The Raiders are going to have to stay in this game in the first quarter. It can't be 10-0, 14-0 going to the second quarter. They have to continue to run the football and give this offense a chance to just convert first downs and then keep Josh Allen off the field. I think ideally the Raiders would just want to. You would see a lot of what you saw last week, where they just run the ball, control the ball, score in the red zone, and then minimize the amount of times that Josh Allen has the ball. Defense gets 2 turnovers, hopefully 1 in Buffalo territory. You punch it in. That's how they win this game.
Yeah, and I don't. And then right now the line is 9.5 or 9. Is that something where you feel like? And plus, you got to look at the special teams as well too. The Raiders have really good kickers, punter and place kicker, so they should be. If it's a close game, they can get points as well. In a pinch, 9.5. They cover that 9.5, or do you feel like the Broncos?
I think they cover the 9.5. Yeah. I've seen it down to 8 in some places, so there is money coming in on the Raiders at this point. It's come down. I still think that's week 2. That's still too big of a line.
Yeah, because the teams are still trying to find themselves as well too. So we'll have to see what happens there. If there's not anything else, it's prediction time. If you want to kind of throw out your prediction for the Raiders against the Bills at Orchard Park.
If you asked me a week ago, I would have picked the Bills.
Yeah.
Having watched what the Bills did on Monday night, they're in a short week. The Raiders stayed on the East Coast. I like what I saw to Jimmy G. I loved what I saw of the offensive line. I think Jacobs is better in game 2 than he was in game 1. This is predicted on Myers playing. If Jacoby Myers plays and you have Devontae Adams and they can run the football and they can keep Buffalo off the field, this is a lot of ifs. If the defense can capitalize on the balls that get thrown to them, and I think Buffalo's still trying to find themselves. It's a different roster than they had last year. I think the defense isn't as good as it has been in prior seasons. Leslie Frazier's not over there anymore. Now you have Sean McDermott calling it. Weather might be a factor here. Look, if this game gets into a rain fest, the Raiders have to tackle Josh Allen because he's going to be running the football. But can the Bills stop Josh Jacobs? I'm going to go out on a limb, and I know I'm probably in the minority here. I'm going to say the Raiders go on the road and win a 10 o'clock game on the East Coast. And I normally don't do this. I'm pretty level-headed. I do pick the Raiders to lose some games, but I think the Raiders win a close one, 24-20 on the road in Buffalo, and they come home 2-0 to face the Steelers.
Interesting. So I'm not there yet with the Raiders in this moment. I think that I can see that how I vision this game is the Raiders get off to a fast start. They get a lead. They, and then at halftime, the Bills are like, are we really going to go 0-2 and lose and lose our opening game in the first quarter? And maybe they end up having a backdoor cover of that 8.5. So I'm going to go 30-20 Bills. 30-20 Bills. I think the Raiders will give you moments where you think they're going to win the game, but I think the Bills. I'm not ready to think that the Bills are going to go 0-2 just yet. If it does go the Raiders' way, then obviously that could be a big turn as far as the AFC playoff picture goes. I mean that you're talking about a playoff team at that point. You're talking about your conversation. I'm not saying the Raiders are going to the playoffs, but like if they go 2-0 with 2 road victories already, and their next road game is going to be in SoFi, home opener against the Casey Hayward-less Pittsburgh Steelers. You could be talking about you could really be talking about a really big start here for the Raiders because that place is going to be jumping, people are going nuts if the Raiders are 2-0 coming home after playing at Denver and playing at Buffalo.
Yeah, the one reason why I feel a lot more confident in that pick, and I could believe if the Raiders don't stay on down in distance and they don't get off to a fast start and they fall behind, then that completely changes. But the way the offensive line pass protected, again, Denver has a better front, I think, than Buffalo. And they had no problem blocking those guys in the pass game. So if Jacoby Myers doesn't play, that changes everything. But if he plays and he gives them an option, then you can mix in Renfro. You're going to see Tucker in this game. I think he'll be active just because you don't know what you're getting out of Myers with the potential concussion. If he takes a hit in this game, you have to have someone else behind him. But the offensive line, the way they were handing off stunts, picking up blitzes, you saw Josh Jacobs getting involved in pass protection. Those guys were fighting for their lives for Jimmy back there. And it was impressive to watch on film. Now, they could go have a bad game against Buffalo, but I don't think Buffalo has, other than Leonard Floyd, maybe Ed Oliver, but I don't think they're as good across the front man-to-man than Denver was. So if they could handle those guys on the road week 1, I think they'll be able to handle Buffalo. And they, like I said, if flags start falling out of the sky and you're getting holding calls left and right and it's 2nd and 20, they're going to have a long day. But if they can play better, mistake-free as far as penalties, not rough the punter, not some pass interferences, and they can figure out a way to slow down Stephon Diggs and make Gabe Davis beat them, they're going to have a chance. Now, they're going to have to cover the running backs. Buffalo running backs, especially Cook, is very good in the passing game, and they're going to have to – hopefully Diablo can have a good game there too, but we'll see. I think they have more than a fighter's chance in this game.
Yeah, I mean, after watching it, I just don't know if they're going to. I don't see a game. I don't see back-to-back games where they don't score. I mean, this will be back-to-back games where the Bills don't score. That would be hard for me to watch. To see that they don't score again. But I mean, listen, this could be the mantra for the new Bills. If they don't score this week, then it might be a whole different Bills team as far as that goes.
We'll see. The Raiders have to stop the run, though. If they let Buffalo run the football, they have to tackle Josh Allen in the run game more than anything. But they're going to have to figure out a way on 3rd down to not let him get outside the pocket, throw those balls down the field, or just run for 1st down. So they're going to have a pretty good game plan on how to contain Josh Allen on 3rd downs. And we'll see. I'm trusting Patrick Graham here a little bit. And Malcolm Kuntz should get some snaps. It's a homecoming. He went to Buffalo. We'll see what happens. I could get completely wrong, but I think they're going to win this game.
What was the last game the Raiders had multiple turnovers? The Denver game last year?
I know they had 4 interceptions at one point. I remember Nick Wachowski jumping up and picking one off,
Yeah.
but
So I mean,
I don't remember.
So that's what they're gonna need as far as that, and it's gonna at least two in this game. All right, as the truck has stopped outside my studio here, I'm gonna let everybody go. All right, Rare Nation. See you next time, and I'll obviously check out Ryan on Twitter and myself on Twitter, and we'll see you next time. Peace, Rare Nation.
Take care.